Good morning, Standard Ninth. In the last class, we discussed till topic number 5, that is who will provide the labor of chapter 1. And today, we will complete the revision of chapter 1 and we will also revise the topics that you have to study from chapter 2 for your test. But before starting with today's class, I would like to give you all few important instructions. Students, please read the chapter line by line so that you do not miss any point, as the questions will be in multiple choice format. Also, kindly go through all the instructions given to you all thoroughly and follow them while taking your online tests. Students, remember the date, subject and time slot of your examinations on various days. While taking the test, do not leave it in between. Complete each question in the given time and then move ahead to the next question. As the questions once displayed will not be displayed again. So make sure that you mark your answer in the specified time. Students, do not press the back or refresh option while taking your test. Doing this will end your test for that particular subject then and there. Hence, you will be not able to complete your test. Please go through all the instructions several times so that you do not make any mistake. Now, let us start with today's class. The first topic that we will revise today is story of Savita. Student, Savita is a small farmer and she plans to cultivate wheat on her 1 hectare of land. For this work, she estimated that she will be needing rupees 3,000 to buy some working capital. She doesn't have money, so she decides to borrow it from Tejpal Singh. Tejpal Singh agrees to give her money, but then the interest rate is very high. Also, Savita has to promise to work on his field as farm labor for just rupees 35 per day, which is a very low wage. Students, Savita has to work on her own land and then she'll be also working as a farm labor on Tejpal Singh's land. Also, she is a mother of 3 children, so she has a lot of responsibilities. But still, Savita agrees to all these tough conditions because she knows that getting a loan is difficult for a small farmer. Next, we have to study about sale of surplus farm products. Students, small farmers cultivate on small fragmented land and so they have very little production. Now, out of this production, most of the produce is kept for self-consumption, and thus they are left with very little surplus that can be sold in the market, thus giving them low income. Whereas medium and large farmers have enough produce even after keeping a part for self-consumption, so they are left with large surplus. And by selling this large surplus in the market, they get enough money, enough capital that can be utilized in the next season for getting the different inputs that they require. Maybe for buying different working capital or fixed capital. Next, we will study that what do large farmers do with their earnings that they get after selling their surplus produce in the market. Students, here we will specifically talk about Tejpal Singh, that what does Tejpal Singh do with his earnings. Tejpal Singh is a large farmer. So number 1, he had put most of his money in his bank account so that he can get some interest on it. Number 2, later he used the savings for lending it to small farmers like Savita. We did study about this point. Number 3, he also used the savings to arrange for working capital such as fertilizers and pesticides for farming in the next season. And number 4, this year he also plans to use his earning to buy another tractor. This would increase his fixed capital. So students, we all know that tractor is a fixed capital. So he is investing a part in getting working capital and also in getting fixed capital. Students, now we'll revise the last topic of chapter 1, that is non-farming activities. So it refers to those activities which do not include farming as a source of income, that is production of crops. These include construction, manufacturing, transportation, etc. Now, the different non-farming activities that are practiced in Palampur are dairy farming, small-scale manufacturing, shopkeeping, and transportation. So let us have a look at few important points related to all these different non-farming activities. The first one is dairy farming. Now students, please go through all the lines because all the lines are important. Again, I am repeating, you will get questions in multiple choice format. So you have to read the chapter line by line. Now, so dairy farming, dairy is a common activity in many families of Palampur, and people here feed their cattle on various kinds of grass like jowar and bajra. The milk that they produce is sold in Raiganj, and 2 traders from Shahpur town have set up collection cum chilling centers at Raiganj. Students, we have studied what is a collection cum chilling center, from where the milk is transported to far away towns and cities. Next is small scale manufacturing. Remember, at present less than 50 people are engaged in manufacturing in Palampur, and manufacturing in Palampur involves very simple production. When we talk about manufacturing, we generally start thinking about big industries and factories, but in Palampur the manufacturing takes place at a very small scale, and so the production is also on a small scale. And they are carried out, the production process is carried out mostly at home or in the fields with the help of family labor, and very rarely people hire laborers for this process. Next is shopkeeping. Traders of Palampur buy various goods from wholesale markets in the cities at a cheaper rate and then sell those goods in the village at a comparatively higher price, or we can say the amount that is printed on different goods. They open small general stores in the village and sell different variety of items there. For example, they sell rice, wheat, oil, etc. And few of the families whose houses are close to the bus stands, they have used a part of their house to open small shops. Next non-farming activity that we have to study about is transport. Students, there are variety of vehicles on the road connecting Palampur to Raiganj. They ferry people, that means they carry people and goods from one place to another, and in return they get paid for it. So that is their source of income. And the number of people involved in transport has grown over the last several years. So we can say this transportation sector is a fast developing sector in Palampur. Now students, with this we are done with the revision of chapter 1. Moving ahead, now we will start with the revision of chapter 2, that is people as resource. So let us start. Students, high population can be an asset if most of it indulges in activities which stimulate growth of an economy, as a large population contributes to a greater workforce and paves the way to economic development. So students, this chapter is an effort to explain that population can be an asset for the economy rather than being a liability. Asset means a useful or valuable thing, and liability means a thing whose presence is likely to put one at a disadvantage. I've also told you all that the population of a country can be turned into human resource once there is an investment in education, training and medical care. Students, human resource are the people who are part of the workforce of an organization, or we can say the people who are involved in some activity and thus adding to the country's economy. And human capital refers to the skills, knowledge and experience possessed by an individual or population that contributes to the creation of goods and services. Students, please go through these definitions. These are very important. Next, there is a statement given in your NCERT textbook that population of a country through its productivity contributes to GNP. Now students, gross national product refers to the value of all the final goods and services produced by a country's residents, no matter where they are producing. If an Indian is producing any good or generating any service in any part of the world, it will be added to the GNP of India. Next, students, it is said that when the existing human resource is further developed by becoming more educated and healthy, we call it human capital formation. So human capital formation is the process, we can say, that adds to the stock of human capital. When they are being given education, or when they are being given different types of training, then they are in a process of becoming human resource. And this human capital formation, we can say, is adding to the stock of the human resource, human capital that we have in a country, just like physical capital formation. And investment in human capital yields a return just like investment in physical capital. Students, when we make an investment in people, maybe in form of education, health or training, that gives us more return in terms of income, and also it is good for the entire country, for the entire society. Just like physical capital, just the way we invest in some machines or we invest in business, it gets us a profit, it gives us some profit. The same way, investment in human capital also gives us some return. That investment helps in the growing of an economy. Now students, there are a few definitions that I have written here. Let us have a look at it. So physical capital, it refers to the inputs used in the process of production. Now this we have already studied in chapter 1. Physical capital formation, so this term refers to the additional investment made in form of advanced tools and machineries. Human capital formation, already I have told you all, the process of adding to the stock of human capital. Then it is written that the entire society gains from more educated and healthy people in other indirect ways. Students, the one who is educated, of course that person, and gets a better job, then of course that person will get return in form of income. But then it is not that only that particular person will be gaining from his job. There are other people also, or we can say the entire society gains from it, because let us talk about doctor, for example. A doctor will earn income and that will give him benefit, personal benefit, but then that doctor will be looking after the patients, will be helping, will be serving the entire society, and so we can say that the entire society will be getting the benefits. Next, human capital is superior. Why? Because these are active factors of production. Students, remember when we were discussing about the features of land, I told you all that land is a passive factor of production. It cannot produce anything on itself until and laborers work on it or people work on it. So land is a passive factor of production, whereas human capital are active factors of production, because ultimately they are doing the work. And also they can bring changes in other resources. We the people can bring changes in different resources. Population can be turned into productive asset by investment in human capital. So this I have already told you all, that population can be turned into human resource, or we can say productive asset, if we make investment in providing them with proper education and training, or in short we can say by investment in human capital. Now students, let us have a look at this cycle. So in this cycle, from this cycle we can observe that one advantage is leading to another advantage, thus creating a chain-like structure. And so this cycle is known as a virtuous cycle. A virtuous cycle is a chain of events in which a given benefit to an individual leads to some other advantages and benefits, and thereby making a person to lead a better life. So we can say that virtuous cycle is a chain of advantages. Whereas if you will observe this cycle, in this you can see that one disadvantage is leading to another disadvantage. So this is a vicious cycle. Now, vicious cycle is a chain in which a given disadvantage leads to some other demerit, which in turn becomes a cause for another problem, thereby creating a track-like structure of adversity from where it becomes very difficult to overcome a situation. Students, remember that educated parents are found to invest more heavily on the education of their child. This is because they have realized the importance of education for themselves, and they are also conscious of proper nutrition and hygiene, and so they create a virtuous cycle. Whereas a vicious cycle may be created by disadvantaged parents who themselves are uneducated and lack in hygiene, and so they keep their children in a similarly disadvantaged state. Next, we have to study about Japan. That how did countries like Japan become rich? Students, Japan is not very rich in natural resources, and so they invested in people, especially in the field of education and health. Now these people made efficient use of land and other resources that are available to them. And the efficiency and technology evolved by the people have made the country rich and developed. Moving ahead to the last topic that we have to revise in today's class, that is economic and non-economic activities. Students, economic activities are related to production, distribution and exchange of goods and services, and these are performed with a view to make them available to consumers and also to earn money. Whereas non-economic activities are performed for emotional reasons or concern for another person. So we can say that for economic activities you will be paid, and for non-economic activities you won't be paid. Economic activities are also known as market activities, and non-economic activities are also known as non-market activities. Let us understand these two with the help of an example. A nurse looking after patients in a hospital will be considered as an economic activity because she will be getting payment for that particular work. Whereas if the same nurse is looking after her children, is taking care of her children at home, that won't be considered as an economic activity, but it is a non-economic activity. Why? Because she won't be getting any payment for that particular work. Next, we have to study about the different sectors in which economic activities are classified. So the different sectors are primary sector, secondary sector and tertiary sector. Students, primary sector includes activities undertaken by directly using or exploiting natural resources. For example, agriculture, forestry, mining. In this, we directly use the natural resources. Next, secondary sector includes activities in which the natural products are changed to finished products. For example, making chair from wood will be considered as an activity of secondary sector. And the last one, that is tertiary sector, it includes activities that generate services to the people. For example, transportation, communication, banking. In these activities, no goods are produced, but services are being generated. And so tertiary sector is also known as service sector. Sorry, I forgot to inform you all. Primary sector is also known as agriculture and related sector, and secondary sector is also known as industrial sector. Students, we studied just now that economic activities are also known as market activities, and non-economic activities are known as non-market activities. But then there is this statement given in your textbook, that is economic activities have two parts, market and non-market. How? Let us understand the meaning of this statement with the help of an example. Suppose a nurse looks after her patients in hospital. So this is a market activity as she will be getting paid for it. Now, if the same nurse takes care of her son at home, this will be a non-market activity because she is not getting anything paid for it. Now students, here the activity that is being performed is nursing, and this is an economic activity. But then whether it will be a market or a non-market activity depends on the motive behind doing it. So we can say that for a work when a person is getting paid in some situation makes it a market activity, and for the same work done by that particular person in some other situation in which that person is not getting paid will be considered as non-market activity. So this is how we can say that economic activities have two parts, that is market and non-market. So that's all for today's class, students. I'm again repeating, please read the chapter thoroughly line by line so that you do not miss on any detail, and all the very best for your test. Do well. Thank you, students.